Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Uphill from Avondale Corporate. For those who don't know you, I'm the chairman of Avondale. And today's webinar, we've got about an hour, how to improve the saleability of your business and business planning. I'm going to be talking for about 20 minutes or so on some of the theory behind that. I'm also joined by Tony Pallant, who we helped sell his business a few months back, and he'll actually be sharing live the actual journey he went on, so that we've got a sort of real case study. Did he follow any of the rules, and how did it actually go live in the room? Tony's joining us from Thailand, which is great. You think overlooking the balcony with the bar below. So hopefully we'll not take too much of his time today. The second half will be Tony talking. Please engage. We're looking forward to questions from you. We will be recording the webinar, so if you've got colleagues that are interested, etc., you can forward to them. So I say about an hour, let's get going. How to improve the saleability of your business. Right, so first question really actually for us, it starts with thinking early, and in particular, being aware that the exit options is no longer a straight line. Increasingly, we've got MBO, private equity, trade sale, and also employee ownership trust sales. Different benefits and pros and cons of each. Of course, the perfect trade sale, high multiple, all cash on completion, hard to beat. But then private equity, de-risking, selling at 70%, keeping 40%, having a second chance to get an uplift if you grow the business. Employee ownership trust, 0% tax, quite structured over time, but really great if you're not ready to quite stop yet. And we can easily match trade sales. So we've got to look at the business model, and we've got to ask the question, which is right culturally, which is right for you as individuals, and be clear what the likely exit option is, because that will help us in our preparation. But if we, assume a typical trade deal, but this is also relevant for MBOs and EOTs, how are companies valued? Because when we're looking at saleability, we've got to have a target in our mind of where we would like the valuation to be. And this slide reminds us that the bigger the profits, the bigger the multiple. So of course, the central to increasing saleability is how do you increase profit? But there are, of course, other areas. Most valuations are debt-free, cash-free. So when we talk about multiples, we're also looking at what is the surplus cash at the deal point of completion. But the fundamentals are multiples in private companies range from 3 to 10, with recurring revenue being the highest multiple influencer, followed by the size of profit. So the bigger the profit, the bigger the multiple. And that's simply because of the increased sustainability that the business might have. So to remind us, when we're looking at increasing saleability, we need to look at multiple influencers, price earnings of those profits. And in the center is recurring revenue. So one of the things that many people don't do, they spend a lot of time in boards looking just at how to manage the profit. They don't spend time going, how do we manage the multiple? The other thing in boards, and it's a straightforward one, when we're looking at saleability, we often ask people, how often do you have your board meeting? Are they management meetings or are they board meetings? Management meeting is much more operational. How on track is it? How good are the team? A board meeting, possibly once a quarter for most emerging mid-market businesses that we deal with, is much more, how do we manage our multiple? How do we put the business model ahead of the market to create that we need from buyers when looking to take it to market? And then with recurring revenue being the highest multiple influencer. We'll hear from Tony. He had great recurring revenue, got a really strong repeat client, almost an annuity income from that client, but it was one main client. And also, so we're looking here at multiple influencers. The other big influencer is risk. And, the over-dependence on the owner, over-dependence on one main client, that equals higher risk, which reduces multiple. Spread of recurring revenue equals lower risk, which increases the multiple. But there are all sorts of elements that come into play. We're just about to launch a project. It's got some really great IP. How do we position that to show that it's unique? And also, I think increasingly there is a view that technology and brand are also value influencers. So in terms of building saleability, there are some things that you can do if you're having those board meetings in terms of preparing for sale, because we know what those multiple influencers are going to be. It's not just about profit, it's about how we line the business model up so that when we go to market, we get the better price, or we're more clear on the exit option, so we're geared up for the better deal value. So we actually run a service, we call it Vendor Assist, which is where you prepare pre-sale for a company to go to market. We do it through a data room, and we do a full detailed audit on the business. Now, to a certain extent, you can do some of this yourself, so you don't need us necessarily, although, of course, if you want to come and talk to us, we'd be delighted, and we don't charge a lot for it because we really believe in it. But the fundamentals are, do your own pre-sale due diligence and create a sort of dry run environment on what the business would look like for buyers, and then bench test it. And then go through each of the different, if you like, divisions or areas. So you'll see here I've broken it up as an audit, finance, strategy. We've increasingly said technology is relevant, and operational efficiency. Are you in the higher gross profit for your sector? Sales and marketing. Are you too heavily sales dependent, haven't got enough marketing generation? Really interesting. I think marketing increasingly competes with sales. And I think if you look at a lot of business models, the cost is heavily burdened on sales, because the sales team aren't going to say, oh, we're very expensive. But actually, if you get your tech right, cost per acquisition of marketing and digital marketing in terms of lead generation, typically much cheaper. So there's some real work you can do to cut cost out pre-sale by being more digital. And then, of course, there's the customer analysis. It's how repeat are your customers, what's the life cycle of them, and then actually go through and benchmark where you are on a scoring basis to prepare the business for sale. So if, for example, we were looking at a business and going, yeah, good finances, but not enough recurring revenue, or good finances, but the reporting's not right, we don't have the tracker so that we can show where that recurring revenue is, yeah, we might be putting that in a low or medium risk. If it's been, high or medium risk, if it's been thought through and the reporting is good, then we would put it in low, and we've got a multiple influencer. So a lot of finance managers don't know how to present numbers, for example, and that would be a good pre-sale preparation area, because increasingly company valuations aren't what did it do for the last 3 years, let's look at the last 3 years year-end accounts. It is far more, what is it going to do in the next 2-3 years, what are the forecasts, and what is the current run rate. So we've got to be able to present that sort of information. But so the idea is to increase saleability of your business. Let's go through, do our own due diligence and audit via a data room, benchmark it. That gives us and the team all the different operational areas to then cascade down and go and improve to increase our multiple. And that will help us when we actually go to market. Of course, the other one is looking at your team. And we will hear from Tony in a minute because this is important. Of course, the more team-driven a business is, the higher the value, because the less dependent it is on any one individual. So if you're a typical hierarchical business model with a pyramid, with everything coming to you at the top, you're the sole shareholder, nobody else makes decisions, you've got a problem when you go to market, because that's really hard to sell, or you've got to face a very high earn-out deal structure. So understanding how you delegate, what the second tier are doing, how strong they are, whether they need training, and increasing the ability for them to make decisions throughout the business, and therefore drive the business model rather than being, you know, the autocrat at the top, is really important. Because if you're looking to retire, you're looking to step back, buyers will go, well, that's high risk because you're the key decision maker. So they like businesses where there's a track record of change from the team. So I called it leadership versus management. The key here is for owner managers to be aware of when they're spending their time on management. Management would be at the bottom here, operations and structure. Leadership, what new products, acquisitions, alliances, or research are you doing? And also within that, how are you creating the cascade down through your second tier management in terms of operations and structure? A big area I talk on with people like CIMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants and so on, is that the second tier, often in emerging mid-market where we specialize, which is a sort of 500k to 7 million EBITDA businesses, the high quality SMEs, emerging mid-market, the second tier are often undertrained. They're trained in terms of operation, but in terms of leadership, management skills, and strategy, they've not had that experience because they've been brought through the business. They've never worked for large corporates, so they don't really understand what the reporting and the strategy is. And of course, you can there's some very, very cost-effective training courses around this area. So if you want to create a team-driven business, it's how do you take those people, free up some of their time so that they are able to make decisions? Because the other one, of course, is risk. Managers like the status quo, they like reliability, yet actually to create a strong business model, you've got to take risks, you've got to make changes, so you've got to be able to teach them to understand their risk profile and make decisions. So the business valuation, biggest drivers, more the recurring the revenue, the higher the value, the bigger the profits, the higher the value, but the more team driven, the higher the value. So there's some of the theory. I mean, I can go on all day about saleability of business, but we've got Tony with us today, and Tony has sold his business. So actually, it's much more fun to get a live case study for you guys can ask us some questions and get involved in. I'm just asking Tony to join, and hopefully he will. I've asked him to unmute. There he is. Look, you need to unmute as well. There he is. Okay, so I'm going to stop the slideshow and we'll hear what happened with Tony's deal. Stop share. There we go. We are live in the room. And also, we also had one question in. So do heckle us, guys, if you've got questions. So, Tony, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And sorry for taking up time from the bar on the beach, but it really
stressed.
Yeah. So
keep me from the gymnasium and the yoga.
Gymnasium and the yoga, yeah. And I was very impressed when I spoke to. I didn't help Tony do his deal. It was my colleague Tim. But when we spoke to Tony, he's also done a 10-day detox, which I think excellent, because actually, of course, that's the case, isn't it? A lot of people sell the business and then they go on the travels, and it's not always that healthy a lifestyle. So you've got to think about it. So Tony, how did you get into Avenue Building Services, and how long for? And then what was your experience of selling the business?
Right. Well, hello, everybody. I can't see you, and you're unfortunate enough to be looking at me. I'd turn it off if I was you and just listen. But historically, I was an electrical engineer. In 1989, I purchased the company with a business partner, and after 8 years, it became obvious that partnership was not of equal in regards to workload, and more importantly for me was the responsibility angles of it. You end up in those unequal relationships doing the wrong stuff all the time, while your business partner possibly does the right stuff all the time. So we sort of parted company. I started Avenue Building Company in January 1998. So January this year would be its 25-year anniversary.
Fantastic.
I started it with not a lot of money. It is a bespoke specialist construction company. construction companies are pretty notoriously hard to sell.
They are.
Historically, they're not easy sells. They're very last job is everything. The balance sheets are often distorted, as we saw with Carillion and how they distorted their management accounts to keep running when they shouldn't have done. So we started ABC. I was jolling along, doing what I did. So I was more sales orientated, the sort of jack of all trades. It was a small business. The first year we did about £2 million.
You've got to be able to do it all, haven't you? You have got to be able to do it all. Yeah.
You got your fingers in every pie, and it evolved. It evolved to a certain extent. The best time I had working, because I had started my family late, was when we were turning over about 2.5, 3 million. It was delightful, but it soon become accidentally, or pressure from the clients, become bigger. They wanted us to do more. They wanted us to go abroad, and we point blank refused to go abroad, even though the purchaser now is promoting us abroad, or promoting my company. No, it's not even my company anymore. I've got the money. Happy days. No, the company is now going to be it's going to take it international, which is really nice, and it's lovely. It's still a small company at this minute, attached to a ginormous conglomerate, which was both flattering and scary. So we grew, and it was okay. I learned new skills. Took on a sales director, who lovely man, done his job, gave him the responsibility. And about 8, 9 years ago, I was reflecting on where I was. I was 51, 52. Hard to believe I'm 63, but I promise you.
That is difficult, Tony. The detox is working. The detox has worked.
I don't think. Well, anyway, so we things evolve, and I started looking at it, and I was thinking, well, if I'm not here, what happens to these 20 odd people who've worked with me for a considerable amount of years? You know, a lot of them was with the original business, and they just came to me because it was where the future was for them. And I was trying to build a secure future for the employees, and that secure future that I was offering, it breeds loyalty, doesn't it? I don't know who you are, but none of you are stupid. You all know, you all run your own business. So I ain't going to try and teach you to suck eggs in any way. But loyalty is a fantastic tool, as is a security of employment. You know, we as people, we don't sell that to our staff enough, in my humble opinion. But that's neither nor there. So we got bigger, and I thought, well, you know, I'm here, there, and everywhere. If I wasn't there, it's all going to go wrong. So by everything that happened in my I'm not a businessman. Everything that happened in my business life.
Tony, can I just heckle you? Just for a second. Every entrepreneur I meet that we've sold the company says, I'm surprised I got that much money for my little business, and I'm not a businessman. But every single one is a businessman. Well, you're not as a corporate businessman.
How do I mute you? You're starting to interrupt me already. I mean,
keep going.
Anyway, no, I'm not a businessman. It evolved, and I learned to be a businessman at best. I learned the rules and the wherewithal, and understood how the pennies worked in my own fashion. I did everything to suit myself and my knowledge base, so that I could understand how the business was moving forward, profit and loss accounts, that sort of thing. But I had my own way of doing it. We employed an accountant to do monthly accounts as a check, but we just jollied on. So I started looking at it, and by pure, as I say, I'm not a businessman, by pure, I wouldn't call it luck, and I wouldn't call it judgment. It was, at the risk of sounding, it was organic. I just moved in the right way, in the right stream, with guidance from contemporaries. I listened to what they was doing. Some of it I wanted, A lot of it I didn't. It's not how I wanted to do things. And I thought, I've got to stop working. I've got to not do this no more. I've got my fingers, you know, if I fall over, the clients will go and blah. So I started then designing myself out of it. I sat down and I looked at my little family tree and I thought, well, it's too pointy, it needs to be flatter for me.
Yeah.
It needed to be flatter, and the second tier needed to be a little bit flatter still, but underneath them, we separated their functions, and I taught them, because there weren't a we, how to interact. And all companies are sales led. You can't sell a bad product, no. So you can flog something to death. If the product's no good, you're not going to sell it. People will catch up with you. And so in those first 2 or 3 years, the second tier managers, so we had a sales director and a construction director, I slowly dripped it. And now, I wouldn't call it a formal education, but they knew what I wanted. They knew how I liked it done. And they used what we'd been doing for all those years as a benchmark for what they should be doing going forward. Now,
Right.
now the only thing I ended up doing after those years was checking the. I used to have a little bit of paper called the "How much can I spend" piece of paper. So we had management accounts done professionally, and then I used to get me accounts people to give me an A4 bit of paper with how much was in the bank, how much we was owed, what we owed. Never did WIP or asset. And if I ever saw brackets, I got the hump and started, there was something wrong. I kept everything as simple as I could. And that served me as an individual very well. Now, in regards to second tier management, as they become more proficient and more confident in a lot of ways, a lot of second tier management, when I look at contemporaries over the years, their confidence is eroded by the very people who should be building them up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a lot of ego in some people, and that's a good thing, but it ain't my way of doing things. And you're actually, in my humble opinion, you're building your house on sand foundations, because unless they've got the confidence to know when they mess up, that they can double back to you and you can talk to them. And, you know, people don't make mistakes, don't do anything. That's the bottom line. And if your second tier management are not making mistakes, you're not allowing them to.
So, Tony, we've actually had a relevant question in on this from Ranjit, which is, how difficult was it for you? And you said you're not eager-driven, so that helps, but I am, so it's my issue with this. But how difficult was the transition from being the man that does it all to being a more corporate business? And for you as an individual, you know, that, oh.
Well, no, I sat back. I'd got a little bit bored, fed up with, you know, people love all that schmoozing stuff. I'm not particularly good at it. I like people and want to get on. And I've got loads of sayings that very, very successful people taught me. You know, if you don't like a client, don't go out for a beer with him and dinner with him, because it's gonna, they know, they smell it on you.
Yeah. So,
but I'd got a bit fed up with going to nice restaurants and you know, I just thought, well, I just want to go on holiday now. So yeah. as that process of reducing my exposure, not my responsibility, but my exposure, I still got the corporate responsibility. I went on holiday more, spent more time with people I wanted to spend time with. And all the time I was rubbing their bags, little mittens, and they're big, strong lads, but you know, it's a construction industry, but everybody feels that pressure, that pain. And they didn't, because of the loyalty that possibly some cynics might say I paid for, they was rewarded correctly. And every penny that I overpaid was worth it.
Yeah.
Every penny. That was
That's definitely something we see, Tony. You know, and I know I'll pick numbers, but yeah, even in say the finance, you know, they've got a finance manager on 40K. You know, if they paid 60, they'd have a finance director, and you know, there's a difference, and I'm using that as an example. But yeah, sometimes we're too tight, and if you go too low and you don't train enough, you end up undermining yourself because they don't have the ability to pick it up. So.
And it's not just the ability, they've got to have the confidence that they understand the system, however simple that system or how complex that system is, or the proportion of that system, business model that they're interacting with, and the bit before them and the bit after them. We used to say the Olympic rings, you know, everybody's got a job to do, but where them rings cross, there's a little grey area, and you have to respect that bit of their ring, and they got to respect the bit of your ring.
Yes.
So you know, it was the way I managed. Did I overpay people? Yeah. But look, when I look at the success of the sale of my business, which is a construction company, albeit specialist, it was all about the fact that I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Literally. And even when they bought it and paid for it, I saw them 6 weeks later, and the guy said to me, "You didn't lie to us." Well, why would I lie? He said, "But you didn't do anything." I said, "Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I totally designed myself out of it." And if there's one man or a board, that second tier, that shadowing, that costs money. For the 2 or 3 years leading up to the sale, I was paying decent pension bonuses, if that's what I don't, you know. So that, right, lads, this is what you're getting, these people, this is what you're getting, and you've got to do that. So whilst I was overpaying, what could
Can I just, Tony, I think that's really important. And sorry, I know you want to mute me, but that's fine. I've got to say this because when we're selling companies, quite often we've got yet another one where we've got an EMI scheme, Enterprise Management Incentive Scheme, to try and motivate the second tier. But they're so complex, sometimes they undermine the sale. So I personally really like what you've done, which is, do you know what? People want to be paid more. You can pay your mortgage on that. You know, if you've got a pension contribution, you're building your retirement. EMI schemes, I think, sometimes great on paper for trying to lock in, you know, higher paid people, but it can be really over confusing. So I love the simplicity you've got there, Tony. I mean, great. Yeah.
And it's even better now since yesterday, because now you put 60K in, and there's no cap now on that pension.
And your company's saving the corporation tax and the national insurance on that. So you know, brilliant. And corporation tax 25%.
Yeah, we use the pension as a vehicle to show appreciation, even in bad years. You know, not every year's a winner. We only ever, in 25 years of me running that company, we lost money twice. Think about that. In the last 25 years, we lost money twice. Once was in 2012.
So can we talk about the deal, Tony? Because you talk about how you created the team-driven business, which I think marvelous. Because Matt mirrors the talk, and it's a live case study. So great. So when did you decide right now's the time to sell, and how did that go for you? And you know, what happened?
I started raking around. You know, you kiss a lot of frogs. And you're looking around at this M&A business. Now, I don't know much about that. I know a lot more now. I've been educated. I've been through the Minter. I've done the year of apprenticeship. And you start looking around, and I started looking in 2019. And COVID came. The people I was interacting with, and it became painful. So I pulled the pin on it. Now, so I sat back and I rode COVID out, and we had a couple of good years on the back of COVID because we're in healthcare, and there was lots of need and lots of want, and there still is. I started looking at it, and I thought, I got to do it. And I sat down with my wife and I said, what are we looking to achieve? What is the ultimate goal? Right. If we do the dirty conversation, the money, for me, the deal weren't just about the money. Now, I know people's going to go, really? But no, it really isn't. And a lot of people listening will think he's got a point, because you need peace of mind. You also need to have the right purchaser. So what we did is we looked at how much is the lowest number to trigger a sale. Yeah, that's what then we looked at the EBITDA numbers, which was greater. And we thought, right, where's our compromise? We knew what we could do. We knew where we wanted to be, and we knew the value, i.e. for us not getting top dollar, the value for us in getting out and passing on to the people who deserve it, like the staff. And the new owners have got fantastic ideas. I'd run out. I had loads of ideas, but I didn't have the confidence. And I'm what apparently the bank says I'm risk averse, and that's okay. I understand it. Most people who take risks are extremely well educated. Yeah. Well, I'm okay. I ain't thick, but my risk reward. No. If I ain't going to make money out of selling that door, I'm not going to sell that door. It's simple, just simple. So I started looking around, and we was doing some other stuff for our children, and we bumped into Avondale through that process, and that's how that went. Now, unfortunately, under contract, I sold it to a company called Ballast Needham. Their head office is in Holland. They turn over €1 billion a year or something. And they're owned by a company called Renaissance. Now, they're a Turkish company, and the last number I was told was 12 billion a year they're turning over euros. Yeah. They're humongous. Now, I was very flattered that they took interest and understood what I didn't do. They understood my bits of paper. My business was run simply, so it's extremely clean. It's not complex. I had no capital debt. Don't do debt. If we can't afford to buy it, we're not buying it. Yeah. That's just me. And my accountant always tells me off. He said, I'll borrow this, do that. So for me, the deal was about the end. I didn't want an earn out. Didn't want no earn out. I couldn't. I'm a little man. It's
tough in construction, isn't it? It's really tough because, as you say, it's hard to sell businesses because their contracts. What's the next contract? And then if you're heavily dependent on one client, again, that would tend to sign earn-out.
The fact that what we've done sort of organically was the right thing. It was amazing. I'm sitting here now. It's still not. It's not sunk in. I'm still readjusting to not looking at phones, and it's delightful. And you ain't got to think about it. You still think, but you don't think about work, and you don't get up and you're 7 hours in front and what's happened overnight and what's not happened overnight and that sort of thing. So the deal for me and my family was as clean as we could get it. Now, I wanted no earn-out. I had the compromises in the back of my head. I would see the earn-out in my industry as being very, very hard to achieve. But that's me, that's my risk. So we got a fantastic multiple because of the speciality. What people kept saying to me, and I sat with some lovely people. We interviewed about 15, 20 potential buyers, and they kept on about our exposure to a client. It was about 60%. And I just kept laughing. I said, that's all right. It's not an exposure. It's only an exposure when they don't need you. If they don't need you and they've got so many other vehicles that if they're selling nuts and bolts, but they wasn't. They was buying something very specific. Yeah. And yes, there's 3 or 4 companies, but they understood they needed the 3 or 4 companies. And it was, I used to call it an annuity income. Yeah. And for 30 years, that client has been with us. Yeah. And we've been with it. We're totally integrated. So if you have got what some people call an exposure, yeah, I think, there's a mindset of understanding how long that relationship's been.
Yeah.
The fact that I had no relationship with that client. I didn't know the last boss. I hadn't met him. 3 years he was there. I'd spoke to him, but I hadn't physically met him.
Yeah.
He didn't need. Why waste his time?
No, keep it simple. Do the job.
Yeah. We do a job. Nice one, Tan. Walk on.
But to a certain extent, they bought your expertise. They bought your positioning within the healthcare market in the UK, because it was an international buyer. They hadn't got the UK, and actually we're finding that a lot. I mean, probably half of our trade deals at the moment are international. Exchange rates helping that a bit as well. But I think UK post Brexit now, there's a little bit of a value play going on. But we're still recognised as a great place to do business. So people just want to get in And I think we've heard the war stories loads of times about people trying to set up in the UK from scratch. And as your point now, Tony, they just don't get the people. They can't pull that team together. So it's cheaper just to buy it.
They buy it in, and I'd like to say, I don't know what businesses. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know what businesses you're involved in, or what your products or your services are. But this exposure is, we wasn't clever. I wasn't clever. I just said, look, I understand what an annuity is. So I understood what the word was. Yeah. And it's an annuity income. How you manage that, if you have exposure, is down to your second tier managers.
Yeah.
And if you have to really walk away. But I was lucky. It became natural for me to do it.
Can we just go there? I want guys, please ask some questions, please, because you've got a live case study. Your opportunity to go, how did it really go? So we interviewed 15 people. We narrowed it down. We agreed a deal. We went ahead to terms, didn't we? And I say I didn't do the deal, so I'm not 100% familiar with the story. But there was a shaky point at one bit with that deal, Tony, where you said, I don't do it. It doesn't work. I don't know. They chopped the price or something. I didn't. They
tried to chip the price, and I understood what they was doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do it when they buy houses. They get this before exchange and want to sort of, there's a cracked tile in the kitchen. We're not $100,000. So I just said no, because for me, it was only me making that decision, and that decision was on me. But I had total confidence in the business. So I knew that whilst that lump sum of money is coming, I might have had to wait 2 or 3 years for it. But I'd have still been earning. So, it's how I dealt with it. I said to them, look, I'm really sorry, I can't do that. It's too much. And I told the lawyers to stop. I think when you're playing this, I don't wish to call it a game, but when you're doing these sort of, this is what I learned, it's very easy to be intimidated by serious people. And unfortunately, I'm a West Ham supporter. It's hard to intimidate a West Ham supporter.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there, look, whilst I had to work really hard, we'd have meetings and people would ask me questions, they'd send me a letter. And I'd go away, I'd think, what are they talking about? Wow. And then I had this learning curve, which was quite good. It took, from the start to the finish, it was 13 months, which is not the end of the world. It was very stressful, October, November, December. But, I explained to the people why I couldn't do it. It wasn't a confrontational meeting about the pennies. It was a meeting where they were saying, look, well, we think this. And I was going, well,
you weren't going to have that meeting though, Tony, because you said no. So you weren't even going to bother having a meeting. But my colleague Tim persuaded you to go because we believe in long conversations, even if it is to say no face to face. So, No,
Tim was right. Tim done me proud. He held my hand and guided me. And when I sat and he explained, I said, I'm just going to say no. And I hate saying no. Yeah. And I thought, when we finished the meeting, I thought, well, that's gone. And I started writing people, telling them to send me their bills, because you start writing off lots of money then. Yeah. And then I was sitting at home on a Sunday and I get a message, all been signed off. We're completing on the 13th of December. So, perhaps perhaps people like to push a little bit. It's
Yeah,
their
yeah.
job.
And they needed to see. It sounds to me, I didn't do it. It sounds to me like they needed to see you to hear the no. Teams and Zooms and all that, all very well and good. You know, we headed up north towards Scotland the other day for a deal where we just have to have those all parties sometimes just to get it out
Well,
we've got a lot of questions in, Tony. Can we try those? Can we have a
go on, ask away.
Richard James here. Did you consider selling to your employees a trust or a management buyout? So rather than a trade deal, as we call it, like you didn't. Okay.
No, I didn't want that, because what had happened for me was if they got into difficulties, I'd go back in and start giving them money. So no.
And another question here: did the earn out compromise mean a reduced sale price? Well, we didn't do an earn out because you said no, right?
We said no day one.
We had the right buy.
Yeah, and some of the other offers was more lucrative.
Yes.
With an earn out.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't work for me, not because of ego, because I'd start asking questions, because I'd see that money as my money, and if I see them manipulating or mismanaging, then it becomes, you know, I'm designing out confrontation. I don't want to fall out of anybody. So, you know, if you're on an earn out, well, we don't do it like that. Well, this is how we're doing it. Yeah, but you're going to lose £1,000. Yeah, and then I'll be putting it in my diary. And then when the earn out, oh, well, we lost money. Well, hold on, you lost that £1,000. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that.
But sometimes embracing an earn out is great because you can earn more money, but it's got to suit. We always say if you're going to do one, you need to stay in control for the period of doing that if you can. Don't let them control it, and then make sure it's on gross profit, not profit. You know, because again, you'll end up with arguments about costs and what have you.
Well, you're the expert, but I found when I was running in this little place that our people manipulate accounts.
Yeah.
Not is that they sent me accounts for my business that I did not recognise.
Yeah.
I didn't. I said, no, this is how we do. We did the same method of monthly accounts and yearly accounts for 15 years. Never changed the calculation of WIP. Never changed how we approach pension schemes. Never changed how we approach VAT or tax. We had continuity. Whether that was good or bad, when we got in front of them and we had to go and meet their accountants, well, that's how we do it. And they asked us for materials and information that we've never needed to do. Can you do us a forecast? No. Why not? Don't do forecasts. Don't need to. So they say, how much work you got? So we send them the list. What, you've got these jobs? Yeah. Well, you can do a forecast. No, no, that's what we've got. There's your order book. We sold it with 18 months worth of work.
Yeah.
What I found is if you haven't got the information or you do it in a different way, don't change it, because it will be a little sticking point. They will go, well, that's my humble opinion. Keep doing what you're doing.
I think that works. And if you've got a trade buyer where you're here, so you've got to understand the trade buyer's motivation. That works. If you've got private equity, for example, you'd never be able to do that. They have to have a forecast because they want to scale the business up. Which actually we've had a question here is sort of, did you consider that more financial type buyer that would enable you to scale it up and stay involved?
Well. Look, when I sold the business, what we got when we sold it was jam.
Yeah.
Right. I don't mean to be flippant or sound braggartry. We're not overly what's the word? I got no greed button. Success for me was making a profit.
Yeah.
And success was making sure that all sides of my relationships, people was happy with me. Whether they see me or they don't see me is neither in nor there. If the staff don't see me from one year to the next, as long as I treated them fairly, that was important to me. And the clients, when they had troubles, I want to help them, and that cost us money. Now, I could have screwed them and said, look here, lads, you're in a peak, but we built relationships, and those relationships at both sides of my desk, they served me well. And the way I designed myself out of it was unbelievably clever for a stupid man. That organic process is if you're not there and you're turning a coin, my multiple was so good because of it.
Yeah.
And they could see they're clever people. They could scale up. They can look at it and go, "Well, hold on a minute. He's told them to go away because they don't pay him properly," which I did. So scaling up your business.
But I want to say there's one other thing that you're doing there, Tony, which I think is really, really important, because we discussed this when Tony and I met earlier in the week, but we didn't discuss it. He said, I see money differently. So I want to talk about that, because you were very clear on your number, and when you hit it, you were happy to sign it, right? Now, lots of people just don't have that. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we should do an earn out, not do an all cash deal, or oh no, let's keep it another 3. Oh no, do I want to sell? Don't want to? Just don't have that clarity, because they probably don't have that number. Because you know, we've been looking to make money all our lives. It's really hard to say, you know what, enough.
You need. If you want to sell your business and you want to sell your business because you don't want to be there no more, you've got to do that calculation, in my humble opinion. Yeah. If you're still young and you want to sell your business to do other things, and you've got time to be hybrid involved, then that's it's what you're trying to achieve.
Tony, can you see me? I seem to have gone really...
yeah, you're looking like Max Headroom now. Do you remember Max Headroom?
Right, you can hear me anyway, right?
I can hear you.
I'm just going to stop my video and see if it resets, guys, but I remember him, yeah. Right, let's start again. Look at that.
No, you don't look like, the film looked like Max Headroom. I bet there's people listening to this don't know.
Good. So you've done your numbers, you were clear on your balance sheet, and so financially it's worked. What about the whole? You just said you're not looking at the phone. You know, have you got seller grief at all? You know, I'm not important anymore. I'm just another guy in the bar in Thailand, right? I mean,
look, do you know, I'm trying not to be the guy in Phuket off his face every day. That's no good to me. We don't want that lifestyle. We just want to be cool. No, I've been doing so little. It's sort of, yes. Another side to it is I woke up on the 14th, and unfortunately I did open my bank account as quick as I could, because I wanted to see if my pennies, and they was. So that was nice. But yeah, there's a little bit, you know, and things was happening and people weren't feeding back to me, and I was a bit about it, not upset or stressed or angry, just put out a little bit sniffly about it. And then I thought, what's wrong with you? You've got everything. I got everything I wanted from the deal. I can't. If I'd have took the chip, if they took that 400k, I'd have had the hump. I'd be sitting here today going, that didn't work with me. Not that I needed it. It's a lot of money, 400k, but it was more about, it's got to be right in your mind. Now, like I say, I'm lucky. It's me and the wife sit and talk. I might be talking to people who have other stakeholders. There might be 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 10, 12. One person needs to understand what that group wants. That's what I think. When I sat with my 2 directors and said, I'm selling, this is what you're getting, this is what you're doing, they had to be on board. If they're not on board, you're wasting your time. So if you've got 3 or 4 stakeholders involved and one of them or 2 of them's not involved, and then they're going, well, I'm not sure about this, not sure about that, you've either got to incentivize them, which is on top of already incentivizing them, or you've got to walk away from it, because without those people on board, for me, it would not have worked. But they was well looked after. And I'd say the money that I gave them, that some people would say was too much or was over the top, was cheap. to get what I got. The deal for me was absolutely ideal. I have absolutely no concerns, no regrets. Got no regrets about the deal. It worked. A very complicated exercise, but I had some very complicated lawyers with some very complicated bills. But I mean, that's what.
Oh my God, do they go on, don't they? Sorry, Lee, we've got some lawyers listening in, but yeah, they have to. It's complex, but yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Lawyer.
Again, the key is to just translate and keep it simple, which you said, Tony. You said you had 13 months of really learning, didn't you? You went through a process. What does all this jargon mean? I've got to take it in and work it out.
As a mental, I'm no expert. Obviously, I've done it once, but you know, once for me was enough. And I am a bit of a sponge. I will listen and go, "Oh, how did they do that?" I love all you successful people out there. I'd love to understand, how did you do it? Everyone I meet who's been successful, I was saying, how did you do that? What, not how much to get. I ain't give a monkeys about what car they're driving or how big their bleeding house is. I just want to know how they did it. And not for the money, there's some really clever people doing, and you think, like our little business, you know, who thought as a design and build company, building specialist MR systems, you just, you know, it's like people making bits of shoes. You think who does this?
In the end, and I'm just mindful of time, so I haven't got Tony's email, which I thought we'd have actually, so apologies, but if you've got any questions, you can just email me if you want to do, you know, and if you want Tony's details, he's happy to have conversations afterwards as well. So we'll you know, email me and I'll forward and we'll sort that out. But sort of when you're going to come back to this equation that you're talking about of when's enough and learning from others, it sounds to me in the end the key to your deal was owning a niche as well. So you had it, yeah, you found the right river. And I think sometimes people make life hard because they haven't spent enough time on their, kind of, what is the service customers really want that we can do well? And in the end,
want to pay the right money for the right job.
Yeah.
And if you continually do that, success is not about your balance sheet. It's about continuing that balance sheet. For 25 years we did it. The balance sheet was pretty cool for 25 years. And you go, some companies have a really good year, and if I'm going to spin that now, they might stretch 2 or 3 decent years. But the buyer, they're not silly. They go to the company's house, they download all your accounts and look at who left and who didn't, you know, all the officers. They know. They look at you and swat up on you and look at all your dirty washing. You just got to be strong, haven't you? And it's not even strength. It's more about understanding where you want to be, what you want, and what it's worth to you. Whatever that may be, whether it's earn out, it's lifestyle, is it a lifestyle business? I was insulted 10 years ago. Someone said to me, he said, "You've got a nice lifestyle business." And I got insulted. And about 3 years later, when I started to understand it, I thought he's been right. I've been on holiday for 14 weeks when the pennies dropped. So yeah, was it a lifestyle business? Yeah, it was a lifestyle business. But all the time you're there. And now I haven't got that responsibility. I don't have to worry about what happened yesterday at on the budget.
I had to write an article on it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Tony, you've been a real pleasure. We will send, for all of you, John, we will send my contact details. Are you happy, Tony, if we send yours as well, if we catch up after?
Yes, you send it to anybody you want, but the only thing I'd respectfully request is I'm not back in the UK till after Easter. So if you do want to have a chat, please, if you wouldn't mind leaving it all then. But I'm happy if I can contribute in some way. Happy to do it. Like I say, we was a small business. I had a small mind, but if you look at the deal was superb.
You've done well, Tony. So really appreciate and thank you very, very much for joining us there from the beach. So you go and enjoy the sunset, and everybody, thank you also for all of your questions. Don't forget, we have recorded, so we will circulate that, and we will circulate more details. Anybody want my email address? I'm just going to put that up if you need a follow-up. So just bear with me, and we'll get that. I'm doing this also because I like Tony's photo on this particular slide.
Look at that.
So there we go. A happy birthday.
I got where I wanted to be.
That's kevin.uphill@avondale.co.uk. So email me if you've got any more questions as well. And really appreciate everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining in, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Tony. Really appreciate it. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.